Around 40 men attacked and looted the village of Fetai, located on the Cavally River separating Ivory Coast and Liberia. Early on Thursday, Koffi Koffi told journalists in the commercial capital Abidjan. And the Ivorian military launched a counterattack early on Friday to drive them out. And there was an ambush that killed 3 soldiers. 10 were killed among the civilian population. We're carrying out cleanup operations in the forest and we've gone all the way to the Cavally River. The situation is under control, he said. And Ivory Coast, the world's top cocoa producer, is recovering from a decade-long political crisis that culminated in a brief 2011 civil war after former President Laurent Gbagbo refused to accept his election defeat to Alassane Ouattara. And gunmen from Liberia have staged several assaults on towns near the border in recent years that the government and United Nations have blamed on the Liberian mercenaries and Gbagbo allies. Fetai was last attacked in February. And this isn't an attack like the other times. These are the youth from the region who are refugees. They are bandits, Koffi Koffi said, rejecting the idea that the raid was politically motivated. And however, local residents said the fighters were armed with heavy weapons and the parliamentarian for the area said they had launched their raid from across the border in Liberia. And these were Ivorian militia based in Liberia. MPA Cavally told Reuters by telephone from Gbagbo, a town 10 kilometers, 6 miles, from Fetai. And some of the villagers were taken hostage by them. They said their accents were Ivorian. A few of them even recognized the faces of some of the attackers, he said. And cross-border threat and Cavally said he knew of 7 villagers who had been killed in the attack in addition to the 3 soldiers. None of the raiders were killed in the army's counterattack, he said, adding that some 2,500 people had fled to Gbagbo from outlying villages for safety. And Koffi Koffi estimated that around 500 people had been displaced by the clashes. And Gbagbo is currently awaiting trial at the International Criminal Court in The Hague for suspected crimes against humanity during the 2011 war, in which around 3,000 people died. And some 220,000 Ivorians fled into Liberia during the post-election conflict, and around 46,000, among them former pro-Gbagbo militia fighters, remained there, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. And a UN panel of experts charged with monitoring Ivory Coast's arms embargo wrote in a report last month that despite a general improvement in security in the country, Liberia-based fighters remained a threat. And the structure and military capacity, in terms of combatants, weapons and related materiel, of the mercenaries in Liberia and the Ivorian militia remain highly operational, the report said. And the United Nations is gradually reducing its peacekeeping force in Ivory Coast as it faces new crises in the region, notably in Mali and Central African Republic. And Ivory Coast asked the United Nations to consider deploying drones along its border with Liberia to offset the planned peacekeeper drawdown. However, their deployment has been put on hold thanks to improved security, the world body said. And, reporting by Ange Boa, additional reporting and writing by Joe Bavier, editing by Gareth Jones.